just going on YouTube. This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review a 2015 mixtape by Lil Reese. Basically, this product is called Supa Savage 2, and it came out in the summer of 2015. So this is particularly a little bit of a stranger era in terms of mixtape type fare as far as this pitch going to happen, just because the after effects of early 2010s trap and drill are starting to dissipate a bit. Chief Keef was large, and Chief Keef and folks like that from Chicago drill area were definitely large throughout like the mid 2010s. But it was just kind of the concept that Chief Keef had difficulty putting out somewhat his second album and didn't come out until way out in 2015 from like late 2012 as far as what's first going to happen. It was pretty much similar type fare with Lil Reese, one of his affiliates back in those particular days. I was almost underneath the impression that Lil Reese had a number of mixtapes, but really he only had two other mixtapes up to this mixtape here in 2015. So it's just kind of concept. I want to say that this is basically like his third mixtape here, unless there's just some ones that are more difficult to track down within those pitches. But just the concept, he did also sprawl into Lil Reese did also spring onto the scene back in the summer of 2012 along with Chief Keef, some of those type folks. But just within the pitch that there wasn't a follow-up mixtape throughout 2012, and really another one didn't come out until 2013. Now I reviewed both those, both Don't Like from 2012 and Supa Savage from 2013. I want to say I gave both those 10s out of 10. This is another vicious highlight. Just going to go ahead and say recommend every single song on here, so it's just a swirling type one. It's not just easy recommend either. It's 10 out of 10 in all 15 of these songs. So it's a pretty vicious, just hand over fist victory as far as those fares going to happen. So excellent type fare. It's really a remnant. And the thing about this particular product is just the concept, that just the way that the eras kind of were within some of these type pitches was just a little bit stranger. Just because you particularly look after some of the trends that were getting ready to happen. This was right before Future dropped Dirty Sprite 2, and it was still kind of a mystery at that particular time in June of 2015. It wasn't known that Future was going to drop Dirty Sprite 2 and some of those type fares. It was just kind of more differential type fare where things were still somewhat a product of like early 2010s type fare. But it's just within the pitch, a lot of this particular type concepts that happened throughout 2014, 2015. It just felt like 2014 was a mildly quieter year in terms of more mixtape type formats like the Dat Piff era. When you think of predominant mixtapes around that time, there wasn't really like a Dream Chasers 2 or 3, or like, I mean, Chief Keef did drop mixtapes around that time, but they were kind of, I need to get to some of those as far as those first going to happen. But in terms of that particular onslaught, it just felt like it was more off the wayside within a relative type sense. You did have Rich Gang and folks like that. Some of those type fares was just within the pitch. So this is kind of a more kind of just in between type fare. But I like the viciousness. This kind of what went along with this. So some good type fare as Dat Piff started to transform a little bit as we got to folks like Yo Gotti and Drake and Future and Migos and some of those type folks that were pretty predominant with like the more social media type adapted type stuff. But this is just kind of a pitch. This is kind of trendy to that, has a little bit of that in there, but it just kind of feels like more shots in the dark within those particular pitches. Just kind of the concept of like a conduit type stage that just had the appeal of like leftover remnants. I feel like it has a little bit of that broodingness of like leftover remnants of early 2010s drill and trap as far as this first going to happen, just with the continued aspect of this like forging along and getting to some of these new type conducts. It's just in the pitch, but considering that Lil Reese was not one of the most predominant ones, I mean, he definitely was a pretty good shapeshifter within that particular song, definitely a highlight of it. But compared to, it just felt like folks like Travis Scott and Future just really helped lay the groundwork for what was going to happen just from just basically even July of 2015 forward, just pitches like that. So it's just kind of the concept that these were some of the initial ones, and it's not to say that Lil Reese didn't have some involvement with it, but it's just in the pitch as far as saying the concept. This really had like some good. It just, the scene got just adapted pretty quickly just within these next few months. So it's just with the pitch, just really had that adaptation. But this is vicious type of appeal. Just some good products here. Summer of 2015 was pretty enjoyable, and like the mixtape type format with some of those type fares, definitely some vicious stuff. So I look after it. The unfortunate thing about this aspect here is just kind of the product of just as far as saying and stuff that I don't know what music videos or fares like that kind of promoted this particular mixtape, but simple enough to say I recommend every song on here. So all 15, so this mixtape gets a 10 out of 10. I'll probably just go down the list just as far as those fares. I'll just pick out some of these type ones as far as those pitches can have with it. So basically, Baby with the Young Thug is a pretty nice one here. This is an immediate one to go for. This at least has some relative kind of promo single type formats. It's like a tittering and kind of mechanical trap buzz to kind of get here. Just feeling jangled, definitely, and by that I just mean feeling a little bit buzzed. Have some torch, have some smokage in your system, some fares like that. Just some basic kind of venue noise, good promo hop. It's definitely a good promo hop single kind of get here. So it's just in the pitch, good cameo appearance from Young Thug. He was brewing pretty well back in 2015, just some good type appeals. Now, I'm not sure if Lil Reese ever put out an album. He might have, but I know he at least dropped some EPs. I reviewed one of which that he did with Lil Durk as far as those first gonna happen, but I'm not sure if he ever got past like the mixtape rapper type format. He did drop several more mixtapes, was just in the pitch. I don't know if he ever put out an album like Chief Keef and Fredo Santana and some of those type folks, but it's just been pitched some good type fares. So Baby's real nice one, at least within a promo type single type format. Ride is another nice one that has some relative kind of mildly commercial feel. And the thing about this particular mixtape here is it's very dark and swirling within the aspect behind it. This continues that hauntedness. If you like mixtapes by Chief Keef, like Bang and Back from the Dead, some of those type ones, that trap horror type feel, this definitely has that aspect, just an evolution that is very trendy. The production fare on each one of these songs is pretty haunting and ghastly. Great music for like late summer and fall as far as this pitch can happen. This real tour de force in terms of like the aspect of just like this sheerness of like the swamp feeling that it kind of gives. So this is very much like a demonic kind of head trip as far as those aspects can happen when you think of like folks like Korn and Marilyn Manson, like a rock sense, some of those type folks. This really has that particular just ghastliness just about it. So it's very haunted mixtape, but it also does it within a trap sense. So it's just a good swirl of that. I don't know if Chief Keef did this later on as far as what's first gonna happen, but it definitely has the aspect of just like some trap horrorcore that just did that. So it's kind of juggling a lot of trends to kind of tug along here within some of those type fares. But Ride is one that has a little bit more pop rap appeal. This is, or not pop rap, but just a little bit more just vanilla rap appeal. I'd say it's like a nice Ride is like a nice buzzing kind of venue ambience kind of get here, just in between kind of mixtape cut. I'd feel like just Get Fried kind of beat. I would definitely have to say, and just some vehicle meandering. I'd have to say within those pitches, just super song kind of get within those tones. It's had some good guests on here as far as those first could happen. Unfortunately, Chief Keef is only on here once. It's too bad about that, but it is a good pitch. The song he's on is pretty dope. Lil Durk's on here a number of times, at least 2 or 3 times. And like Jim Jones is on the song Ride That I'm still talking about, and then Young Scooter's on that song as well. So it's a good type pitch. So it's just good concept, some basic kind of marinate within the pitch behind this symbol and kind of in between type product, just some good smokes and whips, some of those type fares. This basic kind of product, just like cruise runs, just in a relative type sense, just some basic ambience, good type fare, just time wasting pitches like that. I'd have to say. Benji Chasen's a nice one. Really like the pace of this particular song. It's like a fierce kind of 2010s trap onslaught to kind of get here. Definite song for going ham. I'd have to say good energizing kind of commerce. I'd feel like here just night stroll and kind of bustling song within the pitch behind it. So just in the product, whether it is kind of just moving along pretty quickly within the pitch vehicle wise, or just pitches are just like nice strolls. A lot of snack run type music on here, pretty excellent type cons for that. Just get some goodies, definitely get some burritos, pitches like that, some good type fare, just some snackish, some smoke type fare, get some lighters, some of that typeness. This bustling type one to kind of have for some of those products. Real nice concepts. Another one kind of within that snack run pitch would be So Fast. Is like a harrowing kind of after hours paranoia to kind of get here, just dramatic enjoy to kind of have within some of those type pitches. Just the concept, if you like some pulsating type moments, just kind of the tone of disc, something just a little bit more frenetic that just thrills you a bit. This is a good song that exhilarates, that I'd say just smoking like the night wind. I'd have to say here good rumination as far as this first gonna happen. So it's just good type tone for some of that. Just real good product to disc, being a miss like the night wind, just 3-6 Mafia type fare, just kind of like in a fuck the world type mentality, but just kind of within the pitch of just like, just the concept of disc fleeting, just within aspects. So it's just good type tone for some of that, just more kind of crisper out kind of conduct as far as those fares can go. Good type tone for that. And there are some other ones on here that have some good appeal. Like Gang is real nice, and this has probably one of the best beats on here. And not to say that this whole mixtape is excellently produced, but this a real ghastly. This Gang is real ghastly type one. It's like a brooding and hell of malaise kind of drifting. I'd have to say here just evolution, like early 2010s Chief Keef sound. I'd have to say within some of this just haunting thrills about this particular one. So it's good type. Gang just feels like some autumn-like Dracula kind of music within some of that fares. Just typical kind of atmosphere for some of that, just tones about that. So it's good type hauntingness. I would say that You Know How We Play is a good concept here. This is a good song that goes along with Baby. This has like some relative kind of promo single typeness. This is probably one of those type songs you would have heard on Instagram back in like the mid 2010s, fares like that. Just that typical kind of, just mainly like gallivant kind of mess hall type music. I'd say about this one, a little bit more social pizzazz about it. It's like a dark swirling kind of horrific embrace, kind of get within those tones. This haunting 2-step kind of commotion here. Good type tone for that. Just dance some a little bit, within the tone behind. Just Liddy type song within the fares. It's just kind of one. It's kind of aspect of just like cretinous type aspect, good type tone, just the pitch of just like just basic 2-step jaunt, some of that type fare, just smoke with your pals, good pitches like that. Basic torque type music for Bell as far as this pitch kind of happen, just good type tone for some of that, just dance festivity. It's kind of an initial type one, kind of trendy within the pitch behind it. There weren't I mean, songs were starting to morph into more sounds like this later on. Future and Yo Gotti, folks like that. Drake was starting to do this sort of thing. Good type pitch. Myself is a nice one as well. This has Lil Durk on here. It's like a throwback to mid 2010s trap, I'd say, and by the concept of that, I mean it's trendy for these particular times, but just the product of the way trap kind of was back in 2015, 2018, 2017, some of those type fairs. This basic throwback mid 2010s trap mechanized kind of get here, just similar to Drake's Worst Behavior, some of those type pitches. I'd say some of that particular type of conduct, just a little bit more robotic within the fair, but just good mechanized about it. And this like basic thump. This song has some basic thump about it. Good song to saunter as far as those fairs gonna happen. So good type tone. Another nice one with Lil Durk on here would be Change Up. It's like a dark, militant, kind of triumphant saunter kind of get within some of these. There are some saunter type moments about it, just neighborhood type pitches, just the same sort of conduct that you would get from folks like Waka Flocka, Gucci Mane on the Right Day, some of those type fairs, more folks like Woo Da Kid, some of those type ones. Just typical kind of out in the neighborhood atmosphere, some of those type pitches in like a dark type sense. Chief Keef was pretty good at these sorts of ones. Just folks like that, just kind of neighborhood dap, just some of that type fair, just the conduct behind as far as those pitches kind of go. This, yeah, typical night product, I'd say. Snack Run just amidst like Ravenous Hours as far as those pitches. The Snack Run amidst like Ravenous Hours as far as those typical fairs gonna go just within the tone. So it's a good aspect there. This great, this hauntingness, this is the aspect behind a lot of these. This typical type conduct within the same similar type fair. Just basic standard commotion about that. Just good with a few pals, pitches like that. Just the concept of just smoking in the night wind, some of those type aspect. Taco Bell Run, some of those type fairs, I would say. And I would say That's What's Up's a pretty nice one as well. It's like a glitzy kind of mid 2010s trap pizzazz kind of get here. Just typical kind of dark sauntering. I had to say about this one, just neighborhood dap, smoke, chat, some of those type fairs just within the pitch. A little bit more within a social type pitch. Pretty similar songs like You Know How We Play, Brazy, similar to songs like You Know How We Play and Baby, some of those type pitches that I'd say just within the concept of it. I'd probably say Change Up within that relative type sense is a dap song as well, just within the pitch behind as far as those fairs gonna go. Just good conduct of it. Just some good social bite about this particular product, so it's good type tone within those pitches that I'd say good aspect there. So another nice one would be Somebody's a quality one as well. It's like a usual night fair. Just would have Somebody's a nice one. It's like a usual night fair. It had to say here, just trendy kind of neighborhood trap hop kind of get. Just some good vehicle knock about this one. Just slow cruise. I'd have to say in particular good concept of that, and it's like some music to show out. So this basic stunt type music, but just more in like a basic kind of show out type sense. Just show off your whip pitches like that. Good concept within the fair. Just like typical kind of pizzazz within some of those type fashions. Very trendy, definite trendy type one as trap started to morph a little bit. Just the conduct of just the concept of the subgenre moving further along as far as this first gonna happen. Now there's not, just to talk about drill a little bit, there is some leftover, not necessarily drill on here, but just within the pitch. Now, say there is some drill in this particular product, but it's just kind of within the leftover sense of just the product of just what it kind of morphed into, just the concept of just like the smoke rising from the ashes as far as those pitches kind of happen. Not so much ashes as if like it tarnished and pitches like that, but just the tone is just like the morph of just what particularly is kind of going along. As there is some leftover drill in this product. It's not as full bound like the rumblers that were kind of on like Lil Reese's Don't Like and Supa Savage, but it's just within the pitch of just like the concept of this. It just has more frenetic kind of demonized type fare that this is the concept of this is what drill would have been morphed into listen to as far as this first going to happen, just in the aspect of that particular sense. Not as plotting, not as thunderous within the pitch, but a lot of this is just pretty frenetic. It's the same type of tone. I would just say that this is probably what folks that were getting turned up to drill this went on to listen to within some of those type pitches. Now I do think within the sense there is some turn up. Now I will say that there's not as much like pounding kind of turn up within those pitches. I mean, you do have songs like All That Hatin' and Benji Chasing, some of those type ones are at least pretty quick paced. Some of those type ones, Baby's kind of like that a little bit as well. Some of those type tones, I'd say You Know How We Play is kind of within that relative type sense, but for the most part the energy is just not as ferocious. The bite is just a little bit different this time as far as this first kind of happens. It's just more demonic than lots more Freddy Krueger than Jason this time, just to put it like that. This is kind of the tone as far as those pitches kind of happen, where Jason would kind of be more drill, it's more thunderous. I would probably say that Freddy Krueger is just a little bit more sadism, just pitches like that. That's it. So it's just from the pitch behind it. But I look after it here, just being able to say, yeah, Brazy is a nice one. The Chief Keef song, talk about this one. It's like a horrific kind of usual day shift in like the antithesis format, I'd have to say. It's kind of the product of like a usual day fair, but just kind of in like a real slogged and just it's kind of like in a real slogged and upside down type format in terms of like the mood and motif as far as those pitches can happen, or just the mood and the mood and motif as far as those first can happen. Just hellish, demonized kind of embrace kind of get here, I'd have to say, and this is like some nice autumn fatigue. So I look after it. Yeah, this is a good appearance from Chief Keef. He really doesn't help as much. Full Bound is still a good type pitch. Gonna get this one. Apparently he produced this song, which I didn't realize Chief Keef was the producer as far as this first gonna happen. It's just within the pitch as far as saying this has like a good DJ drama type soul. Just in the pitch, like this in more upside down type format. Just really demonized within the pitch. Just real demonized and horrific would have to say within that. So just a soulful kind of hellishness, good type tone for that. This Day Shift within that fair, good antithesis type song. I look after it. Seen or Saw. How Could I? Is another nice one. It's like a doomed and hella slog kind of trap horror to kind of get this vintage Reese and Keef kind of sound within some of those type pitches. Just some woozy commerce kind of get here. So it's just within the tone. It goes pretty well with Brazy. I'd have to say within some of those type pitches. Just a good concept of, let's say, relatively kind of tore up this woozy commerce just in the pitch. Just some Day Shift within the tone. This typical kind of in between type moments of this after work shift type bear. I would say there's like a couple ones on here that do have like a mild amount of makeshift, not as full bound as if like still in work outfit pitches like that, but just kind of within the tone and just like that relative kind of embrace of just like some traffic of like, all right, tasks are particularly done. Just kind of the concept of some in between as far as figuring out just getting towards the concept. I mean, most of this just kind of has the embrace of just like the after the. Most of this particular product has the embrace of just after like the task and just like things are. Most of this product has the hours of past like the hours of like the normal work shift type fare, which would probably be past 6 o'clock. Probably from this product's probably about 6 o'clock p.m. to about 6 o'clock in the morning. Just demon time type hours to a T. But I would at least say that Brazy, How Could I, and probably Seen or Saw are just some ones within those pitches that do have like some relative day type fare. But it just does in the haunting aspect. Don't expect like clock in at 8 o'clock in the morning type fare within this product. It's just not say that I wouldn't have it, but it's just in the pitch that this is not your Jimmy's Egg and kind of more Starbucks and Waffle House type commerce. Not to say it wouldn't have those, and those are dope places, but just in the pitch that kind of goes along with it. But yeah, it's to say, so Seen or Saw is another nice one. It's like a demonic and swamp kind of murky airs kind of get here. Just good malaise for evening traffic. I'd say within those pitches, just haunting workshop within some of those type fares. So it is kind of the product of just listening to some of these type ones. I would say songs like Seen or Saw are some good haunting worship within the sense behind it. It's just kind of the concept of just like that relative type embrace, which is a little bit different from like the format of most of this particular product here, but it's a good concept to at least consider these songs within those pitches. I mean, it's more in like a hustler's makeshift type format, I'd have to say. It's not like you can't have these songs for like that typical kind of enjoy, but it's just the pitch of just coming from like the more Dat Piff hustler type format of like the more kind of trap induced type format of like the early 2010s, and the product of that particular fair just in the pitch of just melding it towards more of like a makeshift type fair. So it's within the pitch that this does have the ability, but it's just not, it just doesn't wean it to you as far as this pitch kind of happens. It's kind of the concept that it does have like some relative vehicle commerce. There are some ones on here like I'd have to say like Ride is pretty good for that, and like Seen or Saw is pretty good for that. How Could I, Brazy, some of these type ones within the pitch, but it's just kind of the concept as far as like this would have to say that this really does in like a demonic type form. It's just like some demonic kind of makeshift, which is a good type tone. I'll look after this in the pitch. Just has the aspect behind some of that, but just the format of just the melding towards it. I mean, the thing about Lil Reese is just the fact that he didn't really make it towards like the makeshift type format or more pop rap type fare. I mean, just in terms of getting folks like Trey Songz and like Drake and Bruno Mars, some of those type folks. But it's just within the pitch that the concept of it does have good station type fare, and this is adaptable type product. Just within the pitch, just kind of the tone. But I look after, so yeah, 10 out of 10. I'd say I don't know if I talked about Day One. I think I'll talk about this one as well. Day One is like a glitzy kind of night venue energy kind of get here, just basic, thrilling, embellished kind of have within some of these type tones. Good song to smoke a few, I'd have to say. Just Homies Commotion, good late enjoy within some of those products. It's another good nice one for some night step out just within the fares behind it. Now, I don't know if I talked about All That Hate, but I'll talk about this one again. If I did talk about this one, I'll just snip it as far as what's first going to happen. All That Hate, it's like a menacing kind of trap barrage going to get here. Just heroin through the night. Good song for heroin through the night, I'd have to say here. Good song to grab supplies, smoke, definite, some night product within some of those type pitches. So just good type fare within the concept of it. Just Taco Bell run, gas station run, pitches like that. Just some good type fare. Just typical kind of night mist embrace as far as those fares can happen. Just typical kind of product of like July, August, September, October, some of those type fares just in the pitch behind it. Just typical kind of demonized type fare within it. It's good, just a little bit more frenetic, pretty similar songs like So Fast, some of those type ones that I'd say, Seen or Saw, some of those type pitches that I'd say, but it's just kind of the concept that really has the atmosphere behind it. So it's just kind of the concept, you get like the sense, like I was saying with some of this, just embrace within the tone of just like a mild makeshift type tenor and pitches like that. It's kind of the concept, mostly like a horror type project. It's kind of within the pitch, just swirling kind of classic Dat Piff era and like a new era type fold. So this has the concept of just melding it a little bit better, just being mildly more commercialized, but also within the concept as far as saying this is just supreme kind of stuff, just in the aspect of just like typical kind of horrorcore. So it's a good concept, good evolution of the stuff. I do feel like this is like a true good sequel to Supa Savage. And I don't remember Supa Savage's full boundness because my MP3 players kind of broke back when I was putting those songs on my iPod and stuff. I need to get both. I need to get some of those, but I do at least know about songs by Lil Reese like Us and Traffic, some of those type ones, some of those type fairs. But I need to get towards some of those just within the pitch behind it. You definitely get some more of those songs back in motion within the fairs behind. But just be able to say here, this particular mixtape gets a 10 out of 10 just within those pitches. So I'd say the social score will probably get like a 9. I'd probably say the social score will get like a 9.5 out of 10. I just would say within the fair behind it. I mean, it has the excellence on here, definitely within the bound of it. Just a good type product of like a conduit type stage. As trap was kind of morphing just in the pitch behind it, moving past like the early 2010s drill and trap as far as what's first gonna happen, getting to more Future and Migos' Evolution and Travis Scott, some of those type folks within the pitch behind it, Drake, some of these type folks, Yo Gotti, Meek Mill, a lot of these folks were kind of doing that. So it's just within the product, just seeing that. As far as these were, I feel like once again this particular product was just shots in the dark, just kind of putting paint on the easel as far as this pitch can go. It's the concept of this getting towards like the product of what was particularly happening. Because the thing about like the first half of 2015 and the second half of 2014, in terms of like a trap type sense, there weren't like super predominant type albums. Lil Wayne did not drop the Carter 5 back then, and Future was not around. I mean, Future did drop Monster. That was kind of one that was kind of morphing with things. But just in terms like at least from what I remember, like the first half of 2015, second half of 2014 didn't have as much this sheer kind of gasliness. I mean, Chief Keef did have a few mixtapes within those fairs, but in terms of like like the ones that collected, like when you think of a Ready to Die type one or an Illmatic type one or folks like that, or just Eminem Show Encore, some of those type picks that was just like a staple. It's just kind of the pitch that this was kind of more in between type fair. So I look after it. Definitely need to be a single music video, something like that, just in the fair as far as those conducts kind of go with it. But I look after here. It is classic within the sense it's very awesome, just aspects. It's very swirling, just demonic, this complete head trip type product. Definitely a good product to get kind of pretty tore up to. Plenty of venue energy, pitch like that. Plenty of dap, just some of those type fairs. Just us say within the pitch, some homies type product, just within the pitch. It just does that. Pretty typical and vicious, just visceral kind of just night type fair, and just within the products of it. Like I said, this demon time activity between 6 o'clock p.m. to 6 in the mornings and fairs like that. Just good type products to that, good type fair. So in terms of the future, like Lil Reese is in prison for the next good while, at least for 5 years, but he'll probably get out 2026, 2027, somewhere in there. Maybe not 2026, but within the next few years. But it's going to be a little bit. Just in the aspects, he went to prison recently, but he has served a decent amount of time. So it's within the pitch as far as saying, I do want to get to some more of these. This is a surprising classic here, just within the fair behind it, just because considering I was figuring that his prime was kind of more in 2012, 2013. It's too bad there's not more mixtapes from those particular eras, but this is a pretty classic one. Surprise hit one that just has a lot more vicious appeals than probably noticed, I'd say.